Voice from Afar with Fred Arnold from American Family Funding. And Fred, you're right. No, you're right. We should live, work, and play here. You know,
100%.
I mean, we're working on the 40th park here. We got great schools, safe city. Even in the Gascon's gone now, but even while Gascon was around, we had a safe city here. So, all right, Fred, you're right. We should live, work, and play here. Tell us about what is 360 Suites. It's
360 Suites is a concept I came up with. Interestingly enough, my mortgage industry goes up and down. So you have employees coming and going simply because of the variations of fluctuations of business. So I would have empty space, empty offices. So I came up with the idea of renting some of those empty offices, but you have to make the entryway neutral. It can't say American Family Funding and be all that. So I started doing that, and I realized people had a need for cool, fun spaces. I went to the competitors in town. They were much more expensive than what we can provide it to. So I started expanding to different offices. We have 4 facilities here in Santa Clarita. One off the old road, the old Remax building.
Oh, yeah.
We got 80 offices there, big conference room, big training room. And we just reimagined the space and made it fun environment to go to. You know, you can make automatic coffee that smells good. You can have your events there, and you can plug and play. And so that's what we created here. And every time I go into LA, I'll go swim in Santa Monica at 6 a.m. From in the spring, summer, and winter. And I drive home, and I just see all that traffic backed up at 8:15. And so my message is, if you could talk to your boss, if you're in a downtown high rise, if you're in the valley, if you're in the west side, just talk to your boss into, hey, can you afford to? They're probably paying $2,000 or $3,000 a month for that space.
Right.
Can they spend anywhere from $800 to $1,500 for a space here and be 15 minutes from home? And I think that's most important. So you can see your children's sporting events, your grandchildren's sporting events, so you can have a better quality of life. So you can see your spouse more, your significant other. So that's really the concept of 360 Suites, Joe.
No, it makes all the sense in the world. Now I think we should save on gas and
wear and tear
save
on
the
environment.
Car, your body.
For those that are environmentalists, it saves on the environment.
Yeah.
For those that are Joe, we're not
I don't care
getting
about
younger.
the environment, Fred. I just care about the cost of gas. You know what I'm saying?
I care about the environment, Joe. I mean, come on. Well, I'll do it for you, Joe.
Yeah, thank you. Somebody ought to. But yeah, stay local. In every way you can. All right, let's talk about the mortgage industry.
Yeah, I want to talk about reverse mortgages. Scott Wilk, I heard, was listening in on the show this morning, and since he's retiring from
It doesn't mean he's old.
Senate.
Watch it, because you know how he feels about that.
He's been a statesman in our city for a long time, and I thank him. He was on the inaugural show I did here. And, he might be looking at the option of a reverse mortgage. So this is for you, Scott. It's gotten a bad rap over the years. And so, what are the pros and the cons to it? I recently had a 98-year-old client who just ran out of money. I mean, he just ran out of money, and he needed $10,000 a month to live for his care, his monthly care. Someone was there every day, and he owned his house free and clear. We were able to get him $12,500 per month for the rest of his life. And it would never run out. And so that was one example of it working right for him.
So let's get some of the myths out of the way, right? I mean, he's getting $12,000 some odd dollars a month. He lives for 2 more years. Then he leaves the planet, and the mortgage company doesn't get all the money they make. They get what he took plus the interest rate, right?
And that's it, plus closing costs.
Yeah.
So the upside for his daughter, who's in New York, is she can hire a realtor here in Southern California, sell the property for fair market value, pay the closing costs, and pay off the mortgage. And the mortgage goes up slowly by $12,000 or so, $500 a month,
Right.
plus the interest.
Right.
And that's it. Now there's closing costs. So this is the wrap. This is the bad wrap. It's expensive. It is, because on a traditional HECM loan, which is an FHA variable rate mortgage, there's insurance on it, and it insures the government that if it ever got upside down, that family does not have to come up with the difference.
Right.
So in this guy's case, if he would have gotten this loan 20 years ago, he was probably only expected to live another 3 or 4 years.
Right.
He ended up living 20.
Yeah.
And so if he had gotten one back then, he might be upside down on his mortgage. In that case, the family does not have to come up with the difference. That's what the insurance is for. So the knock on it is expense. But a big part of the expense is that insurance so that they can keep that.
Yeah, but you don't have to worry about anything. You don't have to worry about income coming in. You don't have to worry about, hiccups in your income or anything like that.
No, you don't. And so if you paid off your mortgage or even if you owe some, it's an option. And I'm just saying, look at it. You got to be 62 or older.
So let's talk about that. You don't have to have the house paid off, correct?
No, you don't. You don't.
Okay.
But they're looking at about, for a reverse mortgage, 45 to 50% loan to value. So if it's worth $1 million, they'll kind of let you borrow about 450 to 500 against it. You can borrow more as the rates go down. If rates go up, you can borrow a little bit less. There's a formula for it, and age. They look at the youngest spouse in the house, and the reason why is they don't want to kick that person out, and they're going to outlive. So certainly that's one thing they definitely look at.
Yeah. So if you owe, to your point, you get a $500,000 home, you owe $100,000 on it. Do they come in and pay the $100,000, or do they take the second position? I mean, how does it technically
No, they go
work?
into first position, so they pay off the $100,000.
Okay.
And then your closing cost. And then if you want to you could take a draw there. You could take all the money you need, or you could just take
A
10
monthly
grand,
draw,
20 grand,
yeah.
30 grand, or you could take a monthly draw, or a combination.
Okay.
Of their,
So it's flexibility with it.
100%.
You just got to sit down and work it out.
Yeah, the draws it's real simple. The draw is the cost to get into it up front.
Yeah.
Is more, and if your rate's 3.5%, you're gonna go, why am I paying off a $350,000 mortgage? But if it means financial freedom to you, why not? I mean, while we're on this earth, we're always worried about money, and it's something you can tap into, so you can enjoy your later years that you work so hard to have.
So we're going to go for a break. When we come back, one of the things I see on Facebook, because I'm always looking at comments, people are making, when it comes to buying or renting, people are renting because they can't come up with enough to buy it down. But, when I start doing some of the numbers, even if you come down with almost nothing, all right, your payment isn't really that much more. So why not tough it out? Take that shot, try to come in with almost nothing. I want to hear your wisdom behind that.
Yeah, let's do it.
When we come back.
Hey, Joe, I need to ask you something about that.
I'm
the
busy.
Traffic, about
I'm
the
working
traffic.
here.
I got to ask you. So back in 1993,
Who invited him in the studio?
Menji, back in 1993, when Senator Wilk was just, a bottom level worker for Buck. Hey, Scott, how are
Bottom
you?
feeder?
Yeah.
And
Before he was a state senator.
Yeah.
It was KBET. And
Oh,
there was a guy that would drive around town and look at all the intersections and call it in. I don't know how he called it in. He probably used a payphone, put a dime in a payphone, and would give the morning
What's a
report. And Menji is sitting there looking on his computer. But this guy would drive to the major intersections and report on where the traffic jams were.
He probably had CB radio.
I mean,
Yeah, maybe that's what it was. Yeah.
we'd have to call Carl, because Carl does recount those stories, especially during the earthquake, where they had someone just drive around and report on what the traffic was.
Anyhow,
No. Hey, but it is getting around this valley can be really challenging sometimes.
it was a nice drive here today.
And I've come in some mornings and it's a breeze, and other mornings you think there was a massive traffic jam somewhere, and there isn't. So, all right. So what we were talking about is down payments, and I bought several of my homes with almost nothing down.
Mm-hmm.
But in today's market, that's what people are saying. I have to rent because I can't come up with anything down. But when you actually look at the numbers, you come in with less money down. Yeah, your payment might be a couple $100 more a month, but wouldn't it behoove you to suffer that out over a year or two and then refi?
Yeah, the biggest.
I'm not the expert. You are.
Thank you. But the biggest barrier to people buying homes, first they say down payment and credit and income. Really, just lack of information, lack of knowledge, lack of
money.
Someone teaching it to you. Yeah, and then number one, really, when it comes to it, after the education, is money, is the down payment. And so there's down payment assistance programs that give you that 3% or 3.5% down.
Really?
But the problem is in this area is you have to make $125,000 a year, so you and your significant other make that kind of money in some of these normal priced homes, if you will. But that's higher than the down payment assistance allows. And so we're in this weird space where down payment assistance is out there, but you can't qualify because you have to have more income in order to. But the more income doesn't allow you for the down payment assistance. It's California at its best. So, but the bottom line is, can you borrow from your 401k? Can you borrow from that? Everyone has an Uncle Jack. 3.5% down, 3% down. Cut him in, at the end, maybe when you sell.
Well, I was going to ask you about that. Equity. Years gone by, they used to have equity partners. You could actually have somebody come in with the down payment.
Yeah.
And and you just give them a percentage of what the house increased in value
Yeah.
until you pay it back.
100%, or a family member right now is what we're seeing. But what about if you're in a roommate situation? Well,
Right.
first of all, if you're living at your parents' house and you're over 25, they might want you out, so they might help lend you the money. But if you're renting with somebody, and let's say you're paying $2,800 a month, what about getting a renter, moving out, saying, "Hey, mom or dad, lend me the 3.5% down.
Yeah.
I'll get in. Now my payment's $5,000, mom or dad, but I can't afford $5,000. But my roommate's going to give me $1,500 because I'm going to give him one of the 2 bedrooms or $1,200, whatever that is.
Right.
So now you're at $3,500. The principal pay down is $700. So now it's equivalent to paying about $2,800, and then you have a tax break. Let's say $500. So you have to look at the holistic approach to money and how to make that happen. The second thing I want to mention, Joe, is those that are renting versus those that are owning. The wealth disparity is huge. Now some people might say, but I've been renting for years and I got plenty of money in the bank. I get it, but if you look at across the spectrum of people, it is monstrous. I mean, it is humongous because a home goes up in value by $200,000. You know how much money you have to save to get $200,000 in your bank account?
Yeah.
And so the wealth disparity is huge from those that own versus don't own. So it's important that you talk to a professional about that.
Yeah, and the whole money thing, the whole way the mortgages work and home values work, it really takes a lot to sit down and really understand. I'm a believer that my home is my retirement plan.
It could be,
And,
yes.
and which is very common in some other countries. Their homes are their retirement plans. And so, I know some young people in town that bought houses a few years ago, and now their houses have gone up in enough value to where they're seeing the upside to that. Unlike, and I'm not making fun of cryptocurrency, but everybody's on this Bitcoin thing. I want to put the money in the house, because that house will keep rising in value. And even when we had that crash years ago, my house was well past that value again. I got to live in there. I got to pay rent to somebody. Might as well pay it to myself, in essence. Correct?
Yeah. But one of my children bought a house recently about 3 years ago. And right now, that same house almost doubled in value.
Wow.
And the interest rate has gone up quite a bit. And so the bottom line is the sooner you can get in, the better. You just have to talk to a professional like at American Family Funding to see what the timing's right for you. I do want to mention, and we're probably up against time, and that is credit. It's important you talk about your credit.
So don't worry about
What's
it.
that?
I can't buy a bicycle right now.
Yeah. So, but credit, really understanding how your credit score works, and a professional can teach you that.
Yeah, but you and I have talked about this offline because talking to one of my kids trying to get. But you also have to watch what you're spending because they don't just look at your credit score, right? They look at what you got going through your bank account. They can look at that
Joe,
kind
as
of
a
your life.
56-year-old man that's been around, yes, that's my age. If I'm gonna go, I enjoy whiskey. I enjoy an old fashioned.
Right.
But if I'm going to go out and have a nice steak dinner, I might have a drink before I go, have someone else drive, and I'll maybe have a glass of wine. But then you get your first drink, and then you really don't care about the second one, and then all of a sudden you order the dessert, and all of a sudden your bill is $130. And that's it just starts with being practical. It starts with, try not to go to that brunch where you're only going to eat a little bit of food, but have 4. What do they call those? They're paninis or the.
I don't know.
What are they called nowadays?
Paninis? What?
Yeah, I don't know. What they put the orange juice in the champagne, and then they put a little bit of peach. Whatever.
Yeah, listen,
the bougie stuff.
Yeah.
Ooh.
Well, I
A
wouldn't know
mimosa?
about that.
Is
so.
that-
Mimosa.
a mimosa?
Yeah, thank you. But notice how Menji knew it right away.
Yeah.
These kids nowadays are very bougie. I learned that word recently.
All right, we'll have a mimosa after this.
But I think we need to keep. I think you need to keep an eye on it. If you're looking to
100%.
buy a home, not just your credit, but look at how you're spending because they're going to look at that too. Anyway, how do they get a hold of you?
I got to change it to 661-818-612-5626. Started my career in Northridge. That's why it's 818-612-5626.
You got to get them like 1-800-CALL-FRED.
Well, no, it's
You know, and then-
818-612-LOAN, LOAN. That's really what it is.
There you
like
go. And then
1-800
also
call.
make
But
sure to
Menji, it's fred@fredarnold.com to reach out to me. I'd be happy to answer
And
your
then
questions.
make sure to check out 360 Suites as well
Yeah.
as an option for
And
working
let's-
here.
And let's prove to you when you hear this traffic report that you need to stay in town.
Oh, okay. Here we go.